agree? You upon your oath say that the defendant is guilty.
Reactions of gang leaders getting life in prison. When the courtroom falls silent and the sentence is read, life in prison, no chance of parole, most would expect shock, regret, or even tears. But for some of the most dangerous gang leaders, the reaction is chillingly different. From cold stares to smirks, these men showed little to no remorse as they were handed life sentences for brutal crimes ranging from murder to witness retaliation. In this video, we explore the cases of infamous gang members like Abel Candy Gallegos, Lisandro Posada Vasquez, George Gould Thomas, and more, and examine how they responded when faced with the reality of spending the rest of their lives behind bars.
This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're let out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
Infamous gang members have lived their lives deeply entrenched in the criminal underworld, committing brutal crimes and constantly staying one step ahead of law enforcement. But now, they're confronted with the harsh truth of spending the remainder of their lives behind bars. How do they feel about this outcome? Do they regret the decisions they've made and the path they followed, or do they continue to stand firm in the face of justice? Join us as we explore the minds of these well-known criminals and uncover their reactions to the looming reality of a life sentence.
Today, I'm gonna be brutally honest. I'm not saying I regret it but what I know for a fact, if I could have changed some things, I wouldn't be here where I'm now.
George Gould Thomas, undoubtedly one of South Africa's most dangerous gang leaders, is a name that sends chills down the spines of both civilians and rival gangs. The nickname Gould, meaning violence, is no coincidence, and Thomas certainly lives up to it. While many gang leaders operate from the shadows, directing crimes from safe hideouts, Thomas took it a step further, orchestrating at least 4 murders from inside a prison cell. He faced over 50 charges, including 7 counts of murder, 3 attempted murders, illegal possession of firearms and ammunition, racketeering, housebreaking with intent to rob, and robbery under aggravating circumstances, alongside various other gang-related offenses. For each of the 7 murders, Thomas was handed a life sentence. Of these, he personally pulled the trigger in 3 cases, while the remaining 4 were meticulously planned from behind bars. But he wasn't acting alone. 6 of his gang members were also sentenced to life in prison for their roles in the crimes, many of which were carried out under Thomas's instructions while he was incarcerated. Others involved in the case received prison terms ranging from 12 to 25 years. These convictions formed part of a broader effort by the state to combat organized crime and dismantle gang operations. Authorities have long battled the reign of the notorious 20 SIXS and 28s, 2 of South Africa's most brutal gangs. The trial, which began in 2010, examined crimes committed by the gang between 1999 and 2010. Altogether, the accused faced over 150 charges. Thomas's reputation was not built on fear alone. In connection to the case, 12 individuals, half of them state witnesses, were murdered. Given the escalating threats, the court cleared the public gallery, allowing only journalists to remain while terrified witnesses testified under heavy security. One such witness described how gang members repeatedly attempted to assassinate Curtis Esterwijzen, a known member of the rival Clever Kids gang. Thomas was arrested following one of these shooting incidents. Even while in custody awaiting sentencing, he made over 30,000 phone calls, issuing kill orders that included the targeting of witnesses. Thanks to damning witness testimonies and an overwhelming amount of evidence, Thomas and his fellow gang members were ultimately convicted and imprisoned. Throughout the proceedings, Thomas displayed no remorse. In fact, he wore what appeared to be a smirk, a chilling reminder of the violent legacy he left behind.
Murder in the first degree. You upon your oaths say that the defendant is guilty on a theory of deliberate premeditation and a theory of extreme atrocity and cruelty. So say, Mr. Foreperson.
Lee Manuel Rios. If you're convicted of first-degree murder in Massachusetts, you're destined to spend the rest of your life in prison, with no chance of parole. But this grim reality didn't seem to faze Lee Rios, who took the life of 18-year-old Kenneth Lopez in March 2015. Lopez's body was discovered on Dwight Street later that month. Rios, then 24, along with his 20-year-old accomplice Jonathan Guevara, were known members of the Latin Kings Street Gang. Rios had a personal issue with Lopez and lured him under the pretense of settling things. According to prosecutors, the two shared a cab to the area where the murder occurred. Assistant District Attorney Max Bennett told the court that Rios fired 5 shots, 4 struck Lopez, including 2 in the head. After the killing, Rios reportedly took Lopez's handgun. He was later arrested when police raided his apartment with a murder and search warrant. Inside, they found 2 loaded firearms, one belonging to Lopez, along with a digital scale, over 10 grams of cocaine, marijuana packaged for sale, and other drug paraphernalia. In addition to the murder charge, Rios also faced charges for possession of cocaine with intent to distribute, improper storage of a high-capacity firearm in the presence of a minor, and unlawful possession of such a weapon. Neither Rios nor his fellow gang members expressed any remorse in court for Lopez's murder. The Carpio brothers. For most parents, the dream is to watch their child grow, thrive, and maybe even dance at their wedding one day. But that dream was stolen from the family of Kevin Oriana, an 18-year-old student at the West Valley Occupational Center, who was viciously murdered in April 2013. Kevin was at the handball courts on the Cleveland High School campus in Reseda when he was ambushed by Anthony Carpio and his brother Michael. What began as a fight quickly escalated into something far more sinister. Initially, Michael started the altercation, but then, as if in a violent scene from a crime film, Anthony pulled a knife during what was supposed to be a fist fight and stabbed Kevin approximately 10 times in the head, neck, and torso. Once Kevin collapsed, the brothers fled the scene, jumping into a car driven by Michelle Pineda, and made their escape. Both Anthony and Michael were affiliated with the Rockwood Street Gang. Witnesses testified that the confrontation started after the brothers issued a gang challenge to Kevin, who had no gang ties whatsoever. Michelle Pineda, who was 21 at the time, was sentenced to 2 years in county jail for her role in aiding the killers. Michael Carpio, then 20, was convicted of second-degree murder and received a sentence of 15 years to life. His younger brother Anthony, just 18, was given 16 years to life for the same charge. During sentencing, Deputy District Attorney Scott Marcus read an emotional victim impact statement from Kevin's grieving family, capturing the deep pain and devastation left in the wake of the senseless act. If the two brothers felt any remorse, they certainly didn't show it. As Judge Martin Herskovitz delivered their sentence, they sat stone-faced and expressionless.
This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're led out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
Abel Gallegos. When 28-year-old Simone Duran picked Alonso Quintana out of a police lineup during an attempted murder investigation, she had no idea that doing the right thing would ultimately cost her life. As an act of brutal retaliation, Quintana, along with fellow gang members Abel Gallegos and Rene Rosales, lured Simone to a motel, where they kidnapped and shot her multiple times, killing her in cold blood. But their savagery didn't end there. After the murder, Rosales and Gallegos poured gasoline over Simone's body and set it on fire in an attempt to destroy the evidence. Investigators quickly pieced the case together, and the 3 men were arrested and brought to trial. With over 30 witnesses and a mountain of evidence presented in court, it didn't take long for the jury to reach a verdict. Rene Francisco Rosales, who already had 6 prior felony convictions, received a sentence of over 120 years in prison for charges including conspiracy to commit murder, being an accessory, evidence tampering, and abuse of a human corpse. Alonso Quintana, whom authorities labeled a chronic offender, was sentenced to life imprisonment. Abel Candy Gallegos. Abel Candy Gallegos was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 163 years for a long list of charges. These included second-degree kidnapping, retaliation against a witness, first-degree murder with intent and after deliberation, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a human corpse, and possession with intent to manufacture or distribute a controlled substance, among others. During sentencing, the judge openly expressed shock at the sheer level of brutality involved in the case. Yet despite the horror of their crimes, Gallegos and his co-defendants showed no remorse. Lisandro Posada Vasquez. Lisandro Posada Vasquez, along with 4 other members of the MS-13 gang, faced charges for the brutal killing of 17-year-old Raymond Wood. The group lured Raymond into a marijuana deal under false pretenses, then drove him from Lynchburg to Bedford County, where they carried out a horrifying execution. They knocked him unconscious, strangled him, and stabbed him multiple times, one after the other, before cutting off his right hand. Lisandro pleaded guilty to aggravated murder, abduction for financial benefit, and gang participation. He was sentenced to life in prison for the murder and received an additional 10 years for gang-related charges. 2 of the gang members who took part in the murder were also given life sentences, while the other 2 received decades-long prison terms after being convicted. Although Lisandro accepted responsibility early on, he displayed no remorse during the trial. What do you think about these gang leaders and their cold reactions in court? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.